Coriolis effect proves the Earth isn't flat. I believe that as well.
That's a point of contention with me. The Coriolis effect, basically what that boils down to, okay, in a nutshell, is that if an object is fixed to a rotational frame of reference, and it doesn't have to be a large scale spinning ball Earth, it can be a merry-go-round, and that object is forcefully accelerated and released out and away from that rotational frame of reference, it will absolutely not maintain its rotational frame of reference around the axis, as it were, when it was firmly secured to the rotating primary body. So in other words, if you're on a merry-go-round and you throw a ball, it's going to appear, so let's say you're rotating counterclockwise, if you throw a ball across the axis, it's going to appear to veer off to the left, if I've got that right. Because, in fact, the ball will have gone straight, but according to your rotational frame of reference, it will appear to have gone off to the left, and vice versa for if you're going clockwise. And maybe I've got that backwards. It's left for clockwise and right for counterclockwise. But either way, the point is that objects that are not secured or no longer secured to a rotational frame of reference and accelerated away from that rotational frame of reference will absolutely not ever maintain that rotational frame of reference. And anybody can do an experiment to prove this. It's not even worth talking about. It's another one of these immutable laws of nature. And everybody's experienced it. You wouldn't be able to walk around or swing on a jungle gym or do anything if you didn't understand these basic physical laws to the point to where you don't even have to think about them. That's how obvious it is to us. And so to claim that the Coriolis effect proves the globe is ridiculous, because the Coriolis effect demands that if a jet airplane takes off from this hypothetical rotational frame of reference and accelerates to the west, it will absolutely not maintain that rotational frame of reference. That is the Coriolis effect. Now, what people claim the Coriolis effect to be responsible for is the counter rotational velocity of cyclones in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemiplane, if you will. And this is not exclusive to the Coriolis effect. It is assumed that the Earth is a spinning ball and the Coriolis effect causes this counter-rotation of cyclonic forces, although the fact of the matter is it can easily be explained by the path of the sun and the moon, which essentially perturb the atmosphere, perturb the waters, perturb the pressure system. The sun clearly heats up the atmosphere and the waters. The moon, depending on how full it is, clearly cools down the atmosphere and the waters. And so you have this sort of mixing effect of all of the atmosphere and the waters in the world. And north and south of that mixer, which is primarily the sun, you get the counter-rotational velocities, just as if you put a canoe oar through the water. If you do it just right, you'll get two cyclones that go out and away from your oar in counter-rotational velocities. So to say that the Coriolis force is proven by counter-rotational velocities of cyclonic forces is absurd. It is assumed and taken for granted as an independent proof, but it has never, ever been shown that the Coriolis effect is responsible for those counter-rotational velocities of cyclonic forces. And in fact, it does appear that the line between which these counter-rotational cyclonic forces differentiate varies depending on the season, which actually goes in favor of the flat Earth. Okay, but so for him to just agree, and we're all probably guilty of it, somebody throws a word at you that you may not understand the concept, but the other part of the Coriolis force is claimed by snipers. So, and it's not actually claimed by snipers, it's claimed by sniper handbooks, and no sniper that you ever talk to actually figures this in. And if they do, they're probably dealing with the gyroscopic drift of the bullet. So I actually called some rifle manufacturers a couple of months ago. And basically, in the northern hemisphere, by default, you get a clockwise rotating barrel. So, you know, a rifled barrel has spiraled grooves throughout the barrel so that it causes the bullet to spin, turning the bullet into a gyroscope, which gives it better trajectory, better accuracy. It's just better to have your bullet spinning, right? And by default, you're going to get a clockwise right spinning bullet, at least in the northern hemisphere. And they call left spinning bullets left-handed, but you have to get those custom made. And I actually called around a few places and nobody could tell me where to get one. So maybe my guess is maybe they're common in the southern hemisphere, where the Coriolis force should be opposite, and yet what they're doing is they've just got the counterclockwise barrels, perhaps, in the southern hemisphere. So I didn't go so far as to call any southern hemisphere rifle manufacturers, but I did call several in the north, and all of them told me they couldn't help me out if I wanted a left-handed barrel. So anyway, gyroscopic drift causes, unless you're dealing with super long shots, it's comparable to the alleged Coriolis force over, say, 1,000 or 2,000 yards, which is a pretty common sniper shot, right? When you're dealing with miles, then the gyroscopic effect would be more. The Coriolis effect would be much more, hypothetically. But what it does appear is that what you're actually measuring when you call it the Coriolis force is the gyroscopic drift, which is going to happen due to the direction of the spin of the rifle round. Furthermore, I did read in a sniper handbook that the Coriolis force was not dealing with the Coriolis effect of the spinning ball earth, but was dealing with the Coriolis effect on the spinning bullet itself, because any rotating object is going to deal with this Coriolis force. And it does appear that the gyroscopic drift and any Coriolis force has to do with the spinning of the bullet and not the spinning of the earth, because, well, the earth doesn't spin. But anyway, so that was the long and short answer to the Coriolis force. It proves nothing. It is a conjecture, assumption, and just claiming something to be exclusive to a sphere, as ridiculous as the counter-rotational velocity of cyclonic forces in either hemisphere, which there is no evidence to support that claim. It is just conjecture.
I really hope you have more than the Coriolis effect.
You don't have that. Just saying.
Really hope you have more than that, guys. Really hope you have more than the Coriolis effect. If the earth is flat, why lie about it being round? What is the point? I can tell you a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Look at the nihilistic culture we find ourselves in. We all grew up on planet Earth, and the first thing that it does is it discredits Christianity and the Hindu religion and Judaism and Buddhism and Hinduism and ancient Mayan beliefs and ancient Sumerian beliefs, Egyptian, Greek, Roman. I mean, all of the ancient cultures clearly knew that the earth was stationary and was not a spinning ball. They all knew it. And so by discrediting the ancients and making them seem freaking stupid somehow, it makes us on our little hypothetical spinning balls seem all superior, when in fact they were right all along. And the spinning ball earth theory does discredit all religions. All ancient cultures seem to be silly. And basically it instills in us this viewpoint, this paradigm, that the earth is insignificant, and no matter what decisions we make or actions we choose over our lifetime, nothing's really going to matter in the grand scheme of things. And in fact, if the little speck of dust Earth were to disappear in 10 seconds from now, never to be seen again, it wouldn't affect anything in the grand scheme of things, according to the spinning ball Earth infinite space hypothesis. When in fact the earth is the physical plane. This is all that there is, and nothing is more precious than the earth and in fact life on earth. And so it gives us the opposite paradigm of the truth. It founds us in a quagmire of deception from the time that we're old enough to think for ourselves and before then. So for people to ask, well, what difference does it make, is proof that they are within this matrix of deception. And it is sad. I mean, we need to help these people, but it makes it difficult when they basically bite your ankles every time you try to help them.
I used to teach